What is up, guys? My name is Matt from Magic the Greatening, and today I got another budget deck tech for you. It's going to be Mono White, Odric and Oketra. The deck name really explains itself. Before we get into it, go ahead and like the video right now. Go ahead and subscribe if you are new to my channel, and click the eye icon to vote for next deck tech's video. There should be 3. If you guys suggest something, maybe I'll put a 4th option up there. We're getting close to Hour Devastation, so I want to start focusing on that as soon as possible. So I'll finish up my deck techs I have already completed, and then we'll get on to our devastation stuff. But now let's get into this deck tech. Let's get into the creatures, bottom of the curve as always. We're going to play 4 copies of Thraben Inspector, 4 copies of Lone Rider, and 4 copies of Handwear Militia Captain. Thraben Inspector is one of the best 1-drops in Magic's standard right now, if not the best. Basically a 1-mana guy that draws you a card. So Lone Rider is very, very good in this deck as well. First strike and lifelink, and if you gain 3 or more life this turn, which is not that hard to do with this deck, he transforms into a 4/4 first strike trample lifelink. And I have said time and time again, first strike and trample is a very, very deadly combination. And then 4 Handwear Militia Captains, basically, because we have a lot of creatures out. He's going to be very, very big. He can sometimes be an game ender. Can pump 1/1s for us when he flips. Not too good early on in the game. He does get removed a lot, so keep that in mind. But he does fill in this slot for this deck very well. Let's get higher into the curve for creatures here. Let's talk about the 3 and 4 jobs. We're playing 4 copies of Aerial Responder, 4 copies of Odric, Lunarch, Marshal, and 3 copies of Oketra the True. Okay, so the deck is named after Odric and Oketra and the little combo they have going between them. So Odric says at the beginning of each combat, that's key, creatures you control gain first strike until end of turn, and same is true for all of the below: flying, death touch, double strike, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, skull, trample, and vigilance. So basically, if you have this in a Oketra out during combat, your creatures have double strike and indestructible. Like, that's super, super strong. There's a whole bunch of things that gives our guys lifelink and vigilance in this deck too. You're not going to have all 4 of those abilities out at once, but if you do, it's basically game over if you guys all have double strike, vigilance, indestructible, and lifelink, or trample if you have a flipped over Lone Rider. So that's the little combo there. Aerial Responder is in here solely because he's a good blocker, gains us life. Helps Odric, if you don't have a Oketra, can be another little outlet for Odric, where he can give all your guys flying, vigilance, and lifelink. Very, very strong. Another outlet for Odric is the transformed, or even the non-transformed Lone Rider, giving all your guys first strike and lifelink, but when he's transformed, all your creatures get first strike, lifelink, and trample. Pretty strong. So I'm sure you guys can see the very many little things you can do with this deck. Oketra helping because she's a 1/1. All right, let's talk about the last creature in the deck, and that's going to be 2 copies of Linvala the Preserver. Okay, so this was surprisingly good for me because she's very, very good when you're losing or you're down in the game. If you're getting out-controlled and you're able to resolve one of these, excuse me, you're going to gain 5 life and put another 3/3 flyer body out. That is very, very strong. And even if you're ahead, either in life or in creatures, it's just a 6-mana 5/5 flyer, so it's not too bad if you don't get the extra abilities. But if they're somehow able to control you, you're not gaining much life, you're getting beat down, this is a great get back into the game card, gaining you 5 life and putting 8 power in the air. So definitely want to play at least the 2 copies of this. It was surprisingly good. On to the non-creature spells, and let's get into the non-removal first. I guess one of these can technically be removal, but anyway. We're going to play 3 Oketra's Monument and 3 Collective Effort. Okay, Oketra's Monument makes all our things cost 1 less and puts a 1/1 out, a 1/1 vigilance out, which is very, very important. So things like Handwear Militia Captain become very, very good with this, or really, really anything, because when you play something, you're also getting a 1/1 vigilance. A, it's another body for Handwear Militia Captain, but B, it's also adding vigilance to the list with Odric. So very, very good, and makes her creatures cheaper. And then as for collective effort, can be very, very strong since we're playing a lot of creatures here. You can destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. That's something you can do, destroy target enchantment, or put a counter on all your guys. So all those three can serve a purpose for us. Enchantments can be kind of big. Cast out. There's things like cast out, stasis, snare, Liliana's mastery, aura curses, authority of the consoles, all that kind of stuff. That can be annoying. This can take out. So definitely the 3 copies of collective effort has multiple functions for us. Wanted to play at least 3. Speaking of enchantments that remove things, and we're just going to play 3 copies of Stasis Snare and 3 copies of Cast Out. So we're technically playing 9 pieces of removal if you count collective effort, but only 6 unconditional removal because collective effort they have to be power 4 or greater. Cast Out can hit non-land permanents. It's kind of an expensive card, $1 per card. Wasn't too worried about that. Stasis Snare can only hit creatures, but it's for 3 mana, you're exiling a creature, and there's a lot of gods running around, especially when Our Devastation releases. Stasis Snare is going to be very, very good. So, wanted to play 3 of those. We needed some removal in this deck. Cast Out and Stasis Snare are some of the best in white that are also kind of cheap. Alright, let's go over the record I went with this deck. I only played 4 matches with this thing. I didn't have... I mean, I've had this thing built, but I forgot to record games when I was playing with it, so I had to play 4 really quick games. So I'm sorry for the small sample size, but we went 3-1, which is really good for a $30 deck tech. The deck did really well. Like, it wasn't where I was scraping by, where you just, when this deck gets going, it just pummels your opponent down. So we went 1-0 against Mono Black Zombies, 1-0. 1-0 against Green Black Red Energy, played things like Liliana. It played Liliana the Last Hope. It played things like Heart of Huron, Bristling Hydra, Voltaic Brawler. Just some really, really powerful cards. A lot of expensive cards in there too. Went 1-0 against it. Blue-Red Control, we did not do good with because we weren't really able to resolve the important stuff, and things that did slip by, they just burnt to the ground. So 0-1 against that, and then we went 1-0 against Mono Red Aggro because we do gain a fair amount of life with this deck, like a surprisingly large amount of life. So Mono Red Aggro had a very tough time taking us down. So the lands we're playing is just 23 planes. That's it, 23 planes. Nothing more to say. Let's get to the sideboard. Alright, the sideboard, here we go. We're playing 1 more copy of Cast Out, just in case. 1 more copy of Stasis Snare if you're playing like against an aggro deck. We're playing 3 copies of Fumigate. Yep, 3 copies of Fumigate. We're playing 2 more copies of Linvala if you end up playing like an aggro deck, and she can be a good come-from-behind victory for you. Playing 2 more in the sideboard. Also playing 4 copies of SRAM's Expertise, just in case you're facing up against another deck that can kind of go wide, that you can't really deal against. This can help you put creatures on the board, help deal some damage. And then we're also playing, now this is optional, you can replace this with anything, but also in the sideboard, we're going to be playing 4 copies of Angel of Invention, just because she's flying First Strike Lifelink, or is it flying First Strike, or flying Vigilance? I think it's flying First Strike Lifelink. And then she also pumps your team and puts 3 servos out. You could probably mainboard this if you wanted to. I didn't. The deck did fine without it. I had it in the sideboard when we needed the extra damage. If they're not playing a lot of removal or counter spells, this card's very, very strong. You can really replace this with whatever you want. The deck does fairly well against most decks. When you guys have indestructible, it's very hard to take them down. But I did play this in the sideboard because there was times where there'd be huge board stalls. I'm like, okay, I know what the one card that can push me through, and that is Angel of Invention. Other than that, I actually don't want her in the main board. Not really any much room. So she's the 4 in the sideboard. That is it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Go ahead and vote for the next deck tech. These could be possibly the last 3 or 4 for Amonkhet. So choose wisely on which you want to see next. I'm sure there's going to be more spoilers tonight, so there might be a spoilers video tomorrow. We'll see. I recorded this on Monday, and I'm releasing this Tuesday, so there actually might be spoilers that I need to talk about. So I'll go over last night's spoilers and tonight's spoilers, probably tomorrow. And yeah, so like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.